Hi and welcome to Matt's Music. In today's episode we are going to be having a look at the top albums that I have played in my life. I think probably they're the ones I go back to again and again and again and have done for years, and I think they're probably the 10 I have played most in my life. So without further ado, let's go down with number one. So number one is Nirvana. It's a toss-up really between Unplugged in New York and Nevermind. I remember when this was the sort of current, album in the 90s. I came to it a bit later in the party. I think this came out in 91. I was 11 when it came out. I think I bought my first copy on CD in, I don't know, about 95, something like that. But anyway, I listened to it and all my mates listened to it. We listened to it like just on repeat forever and ever and ever. And I still go back to it quite regularly. But I think possibly these days, I tend to find myself veering more towards Unplugged in New York than Nevermind. But in either of those cases, they do come up a lot in my playlist. So I'm going to go Unplugged in New York is probably the one that I've played the most in my life out of those two albums. Certainly out of the other Nirvana albums. Next on the list is another sort of dichotomy, really, and for similar reasons. Both these albums are tremendous. They're the sort of my, era, really, sort of mid-90s. Oasis, Definitely Maybe, and What's the Story, Morning Glory. Which one have I listened to more out of these two? It's probably What's the Story, Morning Glory, if I am completely honest, but honestly, it's not much in it. But I think I do find myself these days picking up this one more regularly, and I still, do quite regularly put this on rotation. And have done since it came out in, 95, 96? When did this one come out? 95, yeah. And I bought it when it came out. I bought this on cassette originally when it came out. I bought this on CD. This is not the original CD I had, sadly. That went many years ago, but I've now got both of them back. Next spot. These are in no particular order, by the way. They're just 10. I don't know. I'm sort of... My brain can't work out exactly how many plays I've played of these in 30 years or something, but, they're the 10 I think I've probably played the most. Next one up is The Clash, London's Calling. Brilliant album, obviously the famous Penny Smith cover on the, the photo on the cover, and the Elvis Presley rip-off on the text there. Super iconic album, came out the year I was born, 1979, so it must obviously be a classic in that regard. But I mean, literally, it's just an album that I love, all of it. London's Calling, obviously, Brand New Cadillac, Jimmy Jazz, Rudy Can't Fail, Spanish Bombs, Lost in the Supermarket, Guns of Brixton, Death or Glory, everything on it. Revolution Rock, this everything on it. And this particular one has got some rehearsal sessions on it and a DVD and everything like that. So this is a really excellent edition of this, a much better one than I had as a teenager growing up in the 90s. This is a much more fully featured version of that album, and I still put it on very regularly to this day. Next on the list, Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction. It's one of the few albums, I think, in my opinion anyway, where there's not a flat track or a dud track or like anything that you'd want to skip or pass over or isn't as good as everything else. Literally every single track on it is a banger from start to finish. And it's really the only Guns N' Roses album you can say that about. Yes, there was good stuff on Use Your Illusion 1 or 2. G&R Lives had some good stuff on it. Chinese Democracy, everybody hated. I didn't mind it, but again, didn't mind and love. Like I love this album and everything else. It's like, yeah, I'm glad I've got it and there's some good stuff on it. But honestly, I mean, It's So Easy, Night Train, Out to Get Me, Mr. Brownstone, Paradise City, My Michelle. I mean, everything. Sweet Child of Mine. Everything. I don't know. What's my favourite? Hard to tell. Probably Paradise City or Mr. Brownstone, maybe. But Night Train, I just like everything. Every single track on there is an absolute banger, and I love all of them. One of the most played albums of my life. Next up is the Beatles. Hard one. It was possibly, I could have gone for Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. I could have gone for Abbey Road. I could have gone for Revolver. But I ended up going for the White Album, and I think that this probably just sneaks it out. This tends to be the one that over the years I think I've possibly gravitated to most. Back in the USSR, Dear Prudence, Obla Di Obla Da, The Continuing Story of Bungalow Bill, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, Happiness is a Warm Gun. It's everything on it. Again, it's one of those albums. There's not a dull track on it, not a flat track. It's just brilliant from start to finish, and I adore it. Beatles White Album. Next up, this is another one where I couldn't really decide which of these two albums, but I think I'm going to go Let's Get Free by Dead Prez as opposed to RBG. They're both really, really good albums. Let's Get Free seems to be the one that I gravitate to more often. I'm African, They Schools. Hip Hop was the big single off that one. Behind Enemy Lines, Mind Sex. I mean, there's so much good stuff on there. Yeah, We Want Freedom. It's really good. Discipline is very good. Animal in Man, that's a really good one. It's like based on the George Orwell story. That's, you know, Animal Farm. That's a really good track. Really well constructed track. But yeah, bangers from start to finish. RBG also has some amazing tracks, but Let's Get Free, probably the one I would gravitate to most. Next one is KRS-One. It's a retrospective. It's a compilation covering, you know, sort of a grand swath of all the amazing tracks that BDP crew and Scott La Rock, KRS-One did during that time period. You know, it's got My Philosophy, Still Number One, South Bronx, Sound of the Police, You Must Learn, The Bridge Is Over, Jimmy, Criminal Minded, Black Cop, MC's Out Like They Don't Know, Out of Here. Yeah, again, just everything on there. Why I've chosen this one, I think this was possibly, if not the first hip-hop album I ever got, it was definitely one of the very first. And I just keep coming back to it over and over and over again, because it's just like a compressed thing of KRS-One and so many amazing hits from that time period. Absolutely love it. Still put it on regularly. KRS-One retrospective. Check it out if you haven't heard it. Next up, this is The Doors' Strange Days. Again, could have gone for LA Woman on this one, but I ended up going with Strange Days purely because I remember the first time I heard this, and it was at my best mate in secondary school's house. This was, I don't know, it must have been mid-90s, like 93, 94, something like that. And I went round his house, and his dad had just bought a new home computer, one of those big old chunky ones with like the massive CRT monitors, and it came with like PC speakers, which is still kind of like new and interesting in those days, and a CD drive, right? It had a CD drive in the computer, and the one we had at home only had a floppy drive, so this was very exciting. And his dad had a copy of this, and my best mate Richard Ishwood, shout out to you, mate, if you're watching this, put this on. We played it. It's the first time I'd heard it. It was like, check this out, this is amazing. And it was amazing for two reasons. One, because it was the first time I'd heard Strange Days by The Doors, and that blew me away. And the second was it was the first time I'd heard music, like proper music, not just like MIDI files and stuff, coming out of a computer, and that blew me away too. So as soon as I could, I went and bought myself a copy of Strange Days. Been listening to it ever since. Absolutely love it. Doors, one of my favourite bands. This is definitely the Doors album that has had the most rotation from me. Next up, Manu Chao, Clandestino. This guy is so clever. If you don't know, he sings in like all these different languages. He sings in like Spanish, English, French, German, some sort of patois from somewhere or other. Like, also, he's so clever, and he writes the whole things and does all the compositions and everything. Brilliant stuff. I was introduced to this. A girlfriend of mine many years ago was listening to this. I said, "What is that? That sounds amazing." She had the CD, and this dates it because she made me a cassette copy to listen to, and I loved it. And yeah, eventually ended up getting my own copy on CD. Again, I don't think this is the original one I had back then. Sadly, like many people, you know, in the early noughties, I burnt all of my CDs onto hard drives, ripped them all onto hard drives, and just gave away all the original CDs. Regretted it deeply many years later, and now part of this whole collection and my motivation for it is sort of recompiling all the things that I once had. And reliving my youth in that regard. But yeah, Clandestino by Manu Chao. Clandestino is a great song. Bongo Bong is amazing. Je ne t'aime plus is amazing. Lagrima de Oro is amazing. Mama Call is great. Luna is Soy is great. Yeah, I mean, just everything on there. La Despedida. I can't even say these, and he sings them in all these different languages. It's very clever. But yeah, it's a really good album. If you don't know it, check it out. This is the one to get, by the way. I've got a couple of his other albums. which I bought recently, thinking, oh, I really liked Clandestino, and ended up getting Esperanza and Radio Bemba sound system to go with Clandestino. But in actual fact, like quite a lot of the songs from these, like the music has been recycled just with different words on it. So you just kind of get more of the same. And it's good. If you haven't heard this, and this is just burned into my brain because I've been listening to it just sort of on repeat for 25 years or 20 years. But these, they're still good albums. But you'll find this is the one for me. It's got all the stuff on it. Some of these have got it's the same tracks with different lyrics. So there are new tracks on it. And to be fair, I haven't listened to the masses. This is the one I always pick up. It's great, it's wonderful, and I love it. Next one, Mr. Weller, Mr. Paul Weller. I have loved him in every incarnation that he's done, Style Council, The Jam, his solo stuff. I mean, there's so many amazing albums and songs that he's produced over his hugely long career. But Stanley Road, for me, was where it all started. Again, it's a nostalgia thing, I think. This came out, I believe, 95. Yeah, 1995. I bought it when it came out. I remember it being advertised in the music press. And I went down and bought it with money that I was earning, I think, at the time, from working as a Saturday boy in a local bike shop, like mending punctures and things for people. Oh, funny story. I actually mended a puncture for Syd Barrett once in the 90s. That was my rock and roll claim to fame. Perhaps I'll tell more of that story in another video. But at that time, with my Saturday boy money, I went into HMV with Cambridge and I picked up a copy of this. I'm thinking on cassette originally. In those days, I did have a CD player. I bought one again with the money from that job. But I think the CD was like $12.99 and the cassette was like $6.99 or whatever it was. So I was like, yeah, just getting on cassette. But now I've got this on CD. Changing Man obviously was the sort of big track on there. Pulsing Gods, You Do Something to Me. I think that was another single off there. But my absolute favourite off this was Broken Stones. That was such a good track, and it still just makes me well up. It just does. It does something to me, even though it's not You Do Something to Me. That's a completely different track. But the one that does something to me is Broken Stones. That's on Stanley Road by Paul Weller. So that's it. That's the top 10 albums that I've listened to the most in my life. Please leave a comment down below and let me know which are the albums that you have been putting on steady rotation since the day you bought them, and the ones you love the most and play the most. And let me know and share them with everybody else. As always, thanks for watching. Please do all the subscribe, you like, you comment, you share your stuff. And I'll see you all again soon. Cheers.